Earth had been on edge for weeks, with strange, intermittent signals jamming satellite feeds and cryptic transmissions that defied human understanding. News broadcasts had grown grim as experts warned of an incoming presence, an unknown entity lurking just beyond the atmosphere. When the sky finally split open with the arrival of an alien fleet, humanity held its breath. The alien ships were vast, geometric behemoths, hovering like malevolent clouds over cities around the world. At the White House, the president received the news with a clenched jaw. In military bunkers, men and women prepared for an unknown fight. And in one such bunker, a small squad of elite Green Berets waited in tense silence, watching the feed from the landing zone. Captain John Stone, leader of the squad, stood with his arms crossed as he studied the live broadcast on a wall of monitors. He was a man who radiated calm under pressure, his face rugged and sharp. Years of experience had shaped him into a soldier who didn't waste words. Today, though, the weight of what he saw in front of him made even Stone's steely expression harden. "They're here," he said simply, his tone betraying no fear. Sergeant Tyrone Jackson, the communications expert, leaned back in his chair with a skeptical snort. "Guess they couldn't wait to show off their superiority," he muttered. Jackson was always the quick-witted one, the guy who cracked a joke even in the worst situations. But today, his usual humor was tempered by the tension in the room. The camera feed zoomed in on the emissary, a towering figure wrapped in sleek, obsidian armor, standing before a line of government officials. The alien's face was hidden beneath a mirrored helmet that gave no hint of emotion. With a single motion, he activated a small device, amplifying his voice as it boomed over the city. "People of Earth," the emissary declared, his voice echoing with eerie resonance. "The Galactic Empire has arrived. To avoid your obliteration, we require tribute, payment in resources and submission to our rule. Fail to comply, and your world will face consequences beyond your comprehension." The team sat in silence, processing the words. Corporal Miguel Diaz, the weapons specialist, clenched his fists. He had grown up in a rough neighborhood, fighting his way out of situations that often seemed hopeless. Now, that same determination flashed in his eyes. "Tribute? They think we're just going to roll over," Diaz said, shaking his head. "They don't know us." Lieutenant Greg Foster, the team's tech expert, kept his gaze on the screen, his mind already working. Foster was a quiet, analytical type, preferring machines and codes to people. But even he seemed unsettled by the aliens' demand. "Captain, if they're this advanced, they've already sized up our capabilities," Foster murmured. "They probably think we're no real threat." Captain Stone turned to his team, the edges of his mouth tightening. "Then it's our job to change their minds. We're not letting some extraterrestrial bullies stroll in and take what they want." The broadcast continued, showing government leaders looking up at the alien emissary with a mixture of awe and dread. In a dramatic flourish, the emissary concluded, "You have 1 day to comply." The feed cut off, and silence blanketed the bunker once more. Stone gave each member of his team a hard look, gauging their reactions. They were Green Berets, the best of the best, trained to survive the impossible. Still, facing a galactic empire was beyond any of their wildest expectations. "Orders, Captain?" Jackson asked, breaking the silence. Stone thought for a moment. "Our orders are to prepare a response. The president wants us ready for a show of force. If these aliens think we're just going to hand over our planet, they've got another thing coming." Diaz cracked his knuckles, his eyes glinting with determination. "About time we taught them what Earth's made of." Stone nodded, his gaze steely. "This is about more than just us. We're sending a message for the whole planet." As he spoke, his tone sharpened, a spark of defiance simmering in his voice. "Let's make sure it's loud and clear." With the orders given, each man moved with the disciplined precision that had been drilled into them. Gear was checked, weapons loaded, and strategy refined. Even as the reality of what lay ahead sank in, the Green Berets felt a growing resolve. an ironclad refusal to surrender. In that moment, any fear was replaced by purpose. Captain Stone cast one last look at the monitor, where the emissary's blank visor had stared down at the world. His fingers drummed against his holster, a silent promise that they wouldn't go down without a fight. "Let them come," he said softly, a fierce glint in his eye. "We'll be ready." In the bunker, the air buzzed with readiness, each man steeling himself for what was to come. The Green Berets were only one team, but in the face of this overwhelming force, they felt a primal resolve. The world might be afraid, but they weren't. They were soldiers, defenders, and they had a message of their own. The president's orders had come through. A response was needed, something that would show Earth's defiance. The assignment had fallen on Captain Stone and his squad, who stood in a dimly lit operations room, listening as Stone outlined the details of their mission. The alien landing site, located just outside the capital, was swarming with Galactic Empire forces. It was a fortress of technology and firepower far beyond anything Earth had ever encountered. But Stone's plan was simple. Get in, gather intel, and if possible, deliver a message that humanity would not be intimidated. "All right, listen up," Stone said, his voice steady. "We go in quiet, get close enough to observe their layout, and find out what we're really dealing with. No unnecessary risks, but if we get a shot to make a statement, we take it." Sergeant Jackson glanced around, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "So, recon and maybe a little kick in the teeth, huh? Fine by me." He grinned, but there was a fire in his eyes, a readiness that matched the seriousness of the task. Corporal Diaz checked his gear, his movements swift and precise. "With all due respect, Captain, if they've got half the tech we saw on that broadcast, they'll be expecting us. Then we make them regret it," Stone replied, his gaze hard. "We're not just here for intel. We're here to show them that Earth won't bow." In the pre-dawn darkness, the team set out. They moved like shadows through the brush, their camouflage blending seamlessly into the night. As they approached the perimeter of the alien encampment, Lieutenant Foster studied the defenses with keen eyes. Alien machinery, sleek and metallic, loomed in the distance, casting a faint, otherworldly glow. The air around the camp hummed with the unfamiliar energy of alien technology. Foster crouched low, peering through binoculars. "Their sensors look like they're on a frequency we don't use. We might be able to slip past if we stay below the detection line." Stone nodded. "Jackson, stay sharp. If you pick up anything on the comms, let us know right away." The team crept forward, muscles tense and senses on high alert. Every step brought them closer to the heart of the alien stronghold, where they could make out figures in obsidian armor patrolling in silence. These soldiers were taller and broader than humans, their movement precise and unhurried, as if they feared nothing from Earth. Just ahead, a patrol group was moving directly toward them. Stone raised his hand, signaling the team to halt. For a moment, all they could hear was the quiet hum of alien machinery and the distant shuffle of armored footsteps. Stone's eyes scanned their surroundings, looking for a way out. "Stay calm," he whispered. "If we're spotted, take cover and hold position." The alien soldiers marched past, their faces hidden behind reflective visors. Jackson let out a slow breath, and Foster gave a small nod, signaling they were clear. They continued forward, inching closer to the center of the encampment where the alien command post was likely located. After a few tense minutes, they reached a vantage point overlooking what appeared to be the heart of the alien operation. Foster set up a small signal jammer, hoping to scramble any immediate communications if they were spotted. He pulled out a device and tapped into the alien systems, analyzing the data that streamed across a screen. "What are we looking at, Lieutenant?" Stone whispered. Foster's brow furrowed as he read the information. "It's worse than we thought. They're setting up transmitters capable of sending Earth's data back to their homeworld. They're cataloging everything: military positions, resource reserves, population centers. This isn't just a show of power. They're prepping for a full conquest if we don't comply." Diaz's jaw clenched. Then they need to know what resistance looks like. Just as he said it, an alien soldier spotted them from across the camp. A brief moment of stillness passed before the alien raised an arm, preparing to sound the alarm. "Move!" Stone hissed. In a split second, the team sprang into action. Diaz raised his rifle and fired, taking down the soldier before he could signal. The shot rang out, shattering the silence and drawing the attention of other alien troops. Alarms blared, and the encampment burst into activity. Jackson activated the jammer, disrupting alien communications as planned, but they were now in the thick of it. Stone motioned to a defensive position, and the team fell back, using the terrain for cover as alien soldiers advanced. Shots flashed through the darkness, strange bolts of energy cutting across the battlefield. Diaz fired back with practiced precision, hitting an alien squarely in the chest. "They may be big, but they're slow," he muttered, reloading. Stone fired as well, each shot calculated and deliberate. "Keep them off us." "Foster, did you get the data?" Foster nodded, his face tense. "Got what we need. Let's move." The team began a strategic retreat, each man covering the others as they fell back toward the extraction point. Stone glanced over his shoulder, catching a glimpse of the aliens regrouping. Despite the initial chaos, they moved with frightening discipline, adjusting their tactics to block the squad's escape. "Jackson, get us an exit," Stone shouted. Jackson quickly scanned the area and spotted a narrow gap in the perimeter defenses. "This way, Captain." With coordinated precision, the team moved toward the gap, dodging alien fire. The alien patrols pursued, but the Green Berets had one advantage their opponents lacked: sheer determination. They slipped through the defenses and broke into a sprint, disappearing into the shadows just as more reinforcements arrived. Back at their extraction point, the team regrouped, catching their breath. Stone looked each of them over, relieved to see they'd all made it out. "That was our first taste of what they can do," he said, eyes dark with resolve. "And now they know what we can do, too." The team shared a silent, grim nod. They had held their ground, but they knew the real battle was only beginning. Earth had just issued its first warning, and the message was clear. They would not go quietly. The briefing room was silent as the president's voice came through on the speaker, tense but resolute. "We've seen enough. I'm authorizing a direct confrontation. Captain Stone, I don't care if they're the Galactic Empire. Send them a message they won't forget." Stone acknowledged the order, his jaw set. "Understood, sir. We'll make sure they know Earth isn't surrendering." The team readied their gear in stoic silence, each man lost in his own thoughts. They had seen the alien technology firsthand, felt the weight of its power pressing down on them. But now, fear had given way to determination. "We're not just fighting for ourselves out there," Stone reminded them as they finished suiting up. "We're fighting for everyone back home. Let's make sure the Empire knows who they're dealing with." At dawn, the Green Berets moved toward the alien encampment, their presence a deliberate act of defiance. This time, they didn't conceal their approach. Every step was calculated, intended to provoke a response. They marched down an open road toward the landing zone, the sunrise casting long shadows over the alien ships, hulking silhouettes against the horizon. Sergeant Jackson cracked his knuckles, his gaze fixed on the alien soldiers gathering at the perimeter. "Guess they weren't expecting us to come knocking." Corporal Diaz chuckled grimly, clutching his rifle. "Well, let's make it memorable." As they drew closer, an alien officer stepped forward, his towering figure clad in the same dark armor as the emissary. He raised a gauntlet hand in a commanding gesture, and a guttural, synthesized voice spoke through his helmet, addressing them in distorted English. "Humans, you defy the Galactic Empire?" he said, disbelief lacing his tone. "We offered you mercy in exchange for tribute. Stand down or be erased." Captain Stone held his ground, his voice calm but deadly serious. "Earth doesn't pay tribute. We have only one answer for you." The alien officer tilted his head, his posture one of almost patronizing curiosity. "And what answer is that?" Stone's eyes flashed. "No tribute." The officer's armor shifted, a silent command sent through the ranks. Alien soldiers raised their weapons, energy cannons glowing as they powered up. Stone's team braced themselves, weapons ready. The silence was brief, shattered by the crack of gunfire as the Green Berets opened up with a relentless volley. The aliens returned fire, their energy blast scorching the ground and tearing into trees around them. Stone kept his focus, his every shot deliberate, aimed to exploit the small gaps in the aliens' armor. His team moved as one, shifting positions, covering each other with the seamless coordination that years of training had ingrained into them. "Diaz, take out that gunner," Stone barked, spotting an alien wielding a heavy plasma cannon. Diaz nodded, dropping to one knee and steadying his aim. A precise shot hit the alien squarely in the visor, sending the creature sprawling. Jackson moved alongside him, relaying information on enemy movements through hand signals as they advanced. Despite their technological edge, the aliens were unaccustomed to Earth's terrain and human tactics. Stone could see the confusion in their ranks as his team used trees and rocks for cover, slipping between shadows and striking with a tenacity the aliens hadn't expected. Every time the aliens regrouped, the Green Berets were there, pushing them back. Yet, the longer the battle raged, the more evident the aliens' raw power became. They adapted quickly, coordinating their fire to isolate each soldier, forcing them to work twice as hard to hold their ground. Energy blasts tore through their defenses, forcing Stone's team to continually fall back. Sweat and dust coated their faces as they pushed against the seemingly endless assault. "Captain, we're getting surrounded," Foster yelled, glancing at his device. "They're calling for reinforcements." Stone gritted his teeth. "Then let's give them something to remember." He motioned for Jackson, who tossed him a small, cylindrical device, an EMP grenade modified by Foster to short-circuit alien tech. Stone hurled it into the center of the alien formation. It detonated with a flash, a pulse radiating outward, disabling several alien weapons and throwing their ranks into temporary chaos. "Now!" Stone shouted, leading the charge. His team surged forward, capitalizing on the momentary disarray. Jackson and Diaz moved in sync, firing in rapid succession, each shot precise, taking down one alien after another. The alien officer recovered, his armor sparking from the EMP's blast, and turned to Stone with a renewed fury. He drew an elongated blade that glowed with a faint, deadly light, its edge humming with energy. Stone tightened his grip on his rifle, meeting the officer's gaze with a hard stare. "Stand down, human," the officer commanded, his voice a low growl. "You have nothing left." Stone shook his head, the hint of a smile on his lips. "Neither do you." In one swift motion, he fired, the bullet catching the officer in the exposed joint of his armor. The officer staggered, dropping his blade as his armored form crumpled to the ground. The remaining alien soldiers faltered, the unexpected loss of their leader sparking confusion. "Fall back," Stone ordered, gesturing to his team. They regrouped quickly, each man covering the others as they retreated, leaving the stunned aliens to regroup behind them. They moved swiftly toward their extraction point, the dawn breaking fully as they put distance between themselves and the alien encampment. When they reached safety, the team looked back at the alien camp, now quiet but simmering with anger and wounded pride. They knew the fight was far from over, but today they had sent a message. As the team caught their breath, Stone turned to them, his expression resolute. "We hit them hard, but this was only the first round. Next time, they'll be ready for us." Jackson shrugged, wiping the dirt from his face. "Good. Let them come. We'll be waiting." With a final glance toward the alien ship silhouetted against the morning sky, Stone felt a fierce pride. They were still standing. Earth was still standing. And the Empire, for all its might, had been forced to reckon with human defiance. As Captain Stone and his team trudged back to the command base, the toll of the battle weighed heavily on each of them. Their bodies were sore, dust and sweat clinging to their uniforms, and exhaustion etched on their faces. Yet beneath the fatigue was an undeniable spark of pride. They'd faced an intergalactic threat and lived to tell the tale. But they knew this wasn't the end. In the debriefing room, the president's voice greeted them again, broadcast through a secure channel. "Captain Stone, I heard you and your team made quite the impression." Stone stood at attention, but a small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "They won't forget us anytime soon, sir. But we took a risk. They know we can hurt them now, and they're likely to retaliate harder." The president nodded grimly from the screen. "That's a risk we were willing to take, Captain. Your actions have lit a fire here. Global morale has surged. People are ready to resist, knowing that we're not completely powerless against these invaders. But we'll need something more, a clear message, something that resonates across Earth and straight back to their empire." Stone exchanged a look with his team, understanding dawning in his eyes. He had an idea, and it was daring. "Sir, I believe I know just a message. If we transmit directly from the site of our skirmish, the Empire scanners are more likely to pick it up. They'll know it's from us, and they'll understand our answer in no uncertain terms." The president leaned forward, intrigued. "I trust you, Captain. Make it count." Later that night, under the cover of darkness, Stone and his squad returned to the alien encampment, careful to avoid detection. The aliens had fortified their defenses, likely anticipating a renewed assault. But Stone's objective wasn't confrontation this time. It was communication. In the shadow of an alien patrol tower, Lieutenant Foster set up a powerful transmitter, modified to broadcast on frequencies the aliens used. Diaz and Jackson stood watch, weapons ready in case any soldiers noticed their presence. Foster nodded to Stone, signaling that the device was ready. Stone stepped forward, his voice steady, filled with conviction. "This is Captain John Stone of the United States Army Special Forces, speaking on behalf of the people of Earth." His voice echoed through the transmitter, sent not only across their encampment, but likely to any Empire ship within range. He took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "Your demands for tribute for submission, they are denied. Earth does not bow. We may be smaller, weaker by your standards, but we are fierce, and we will not surrender our home. We've tasted your power, and we're still here." Pausing, he let the silence stretch, allowing the weight of his words to settle. "If you want this planet, you'll have to take it. But know that for every inch you gain, you'll pay in blood. Earth is ready to fight, until the very last of us." He stepped back, and Foster relayed the message through every available channel, ensuring it echoed in as many frequencies as possible. The squad knew the aliens were likely listening, and the defiance they projected was clear. With the message sent, the team dismantled the transmitter and made their way back to their extraction point. The night was eerily quiet. The only sounds the distant hum of alien technology and the rustle of leaves in the wind. Despite the looming threat, there was an undeniable energy among them, a resolve that had solidified with every word Stone had spoken. When they finally returned to base, the team gathered around, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. They knew the Empire had heard their message, and that a response would come, perhaps even swifter and more ruthless than before. But the message was worth the risk. Jackson stretched, a satisfied grin on his face. "Well, Captain, I think they're going to be pretty steamed." Stone chuckled. "Good. Maybe it'll keep them off balance." Diaz, still catching his breath from the operation, nodded. "One thing's for sure. They'll remember us now. This isn't just a backwater planet anymore. We're officially on their radar." Foster, usually the quiet one, spoke up, and the whole world saw what we did. People know we can stand up to them. This isn't just about us now. It's about everyone who refuses to kneel. Stone looked at his team, each of them carrying the weight of this newfound defiance. They were soldiers, true, but tonight they were also symbols of Earth's resilience. And as they stood there, dust and weariness still clinging to them, the significance of their actions sank in. They had become the voice of resistance. Back at the command center, reports poured in from around the globe. Civilian militias were forming. Military forces from every nation were preparing defensive strategies. Even regular citizens had taken to their streets, standing together, emboldened by the Green Berets' stand. It wasn't just a battle for Earth anymore. It was a battle for freedom, for the right to exist on their own terms. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Stone and his team watched the sun rise in silence. It was the same sun they'd seen countless times. But today, it seemed a little brighter, a little more worth fighting for. The mission had taken its toll, and they knew the war was far from over. But they had drawn a line in the sand, and the Galactic Empire had been put on notice. Earth would not submit without a fight. Stone's voice, echoing through the stars, had delivered the message. We are here, we are ready, and we will not yield.